I'm Terry Shepard. Being a confident podcast guest is a skill that can be learned. And that's why I wrote How to Become a Dynamic Podcast Guest and Sell Stuff. It's a sweet and short primer that teaches you about the gear, the appearance, and the messaging that can grab and hold today's micro attention spans and motivate your listeners to take action. How to Become a Dynamic Podcast Guest and Sell Stuff. The digital version is just $1.99 at Amazon. Grab your copy today and sell more books tomorrow.
In Conversation with Terry Shepard, award-winning broadcaster, narrator, and author. A deep dive into the writer's craft with the artists and support systems who create the stories we love.
Today's guest has spent years asking a question that cuts across disciplines and defies easy answers. Fons Burger is an investigative journalist and author whose work lives at the intersection of storytelling, systems thinking, and cultural change. Across a career that spans decades and 9 books, ranging from thrillers to thought-provoking nonfiction, he has explored not just what's broken in our world, but how those fractures connect. In his latest work, The Only Possible Solution, Fons brings that exploration into sharp focus. This is not a book of quick fixes or comforting slogans. Instead, it is a deeply considered argument that the crises defining our century are not separate at all, but symptoms of a single underlying system failure. And if that's true, then the way forward isn't about solving problems in isolation. It's about reimagining the systems themselves. Fons Burger, welcome to the conversation. Great to be with you.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Tell us how 2125, your first novel, came to be before we jump into The Only Possible Solution.
It was because being a journalist, it's very hard to get your arguments to a broad public. And of course, also, there are not many people who read nowadays, but to create this fantastic world, which could be real in about 100 years, it took a lot of people to the question, is this possible and how is this possible? And it's about a man who is in an experimental coma in a clinic in Mexico, where they used to do this kind of stuff. And he wakes up and in a world that is where all the problems come to an end. The climate problem is gone, the wars are gone, and people live on a way that they can live for many centuries more. And that's basically, it's also a thriller, and he's also looking for his missing wife, who's of course dead for 100 years. But so it's also a thriller, but that's to make it more interesting. But the Quorum is a world that I want my grandson, who was born in the beginning of this year, I want him to give him this world, and it's possible. There is a solution.
I wanted to make sure we talked a little bit about 2125, The Hibernator, because I found it to be an absolutely engaging thriller. It's a wonderful read. If you haven't discovered Fons Burger, this is a great way to begin to get to know a little bit of his very diverse life.
Thank you.
And now comes The Only Possible Solution.
Yeah.
And what first sparked your interest in the idea that our biggest problems might be connected?
Yeah, that is because if you study all the problems that there are, we have 7 problems in 100 years. We need food, we need water, we need education, we need a structure where we can live in, and we need the purpose in life. And at this moment, the purpose in life of many people is grow and getting better, getting more. And eventually, if you look at the total of the world, we are now with 8 billion people. And if they all would have a sort of equal portion of the well-being, then that's impossible. So we have to find a way to share this welfare that we have. But we also have to find a way how we can live together. For instance, the immigration problem, you can look at this as a problem, but it's just a fact that people who don't have a nice life, have food enough, have a shelter, they can see on Facebook and the internet, we all complaining, but in fact, we live in a richness that is unbelievable. And that's why I think if you look at all the problems apart from each other, for every problem there is a solution. But the real problem is that all these bright minds with their great ideas, we should bring them all together and say, okay, what can you do together? Because you can't solve one problem without solving another. It's systematic failure that we're in. But I say the solution is that we design a new world for our children, that I want to be alive and breathe fresh air in 100 years.
If you were writing a sequel to this book that was a fiction thriller, how would you plot bringing these diverse goals and very competitive individuals who are very smart together to work on a common solution?
Yeah, that's a challenge. If I can live another 25 years and I can collect enough money to bring them all together and convince them that it's necessary to do that, that would be great. I'm part-time a farmer in Mallorca. And I hope that one day I will invite all those people to a big hotel. Because if we are not fast enough, if we don't do this in the coming decades, then we're totally have a big problem.
You've had so many adventures in your long life and have witnessed so much innovation and change. What do you see as the future now?
I am somebody who has hope, and I call it active hope. That way you can have hope that things go better, but you also can have active hope, and it's not a phrase from me, but it's actually from Joanna Macy. And she says, if you have active hope, then you're not only saying, oh, I hope that everything will turn out to be okay, but you also start to do little things and protest when you see things are going wrong. And that's what I hope. So what the future will be, in my novel, actually, this is a freedom of the writer, that I say, okay, history doesn't exist anymore because the history only learned us the wrong things, war after war. So they decided, away with history lessons, away with history professors. And that is because I think a world that we need has to be so systematic different. And how can that happen? I'm afraid that we have to have a COVID-39 or something like that, or an idiot who pushed the button for an atomic war or nuclear war. And that's why I have this hope, because I hope it won't be necessary. Because if we could project ourselves, Scotty, beam me up to 100 years in the future, then we would look at the way we are now and what we are doing, and we would be amazed. And so if we realize this, then we can come to a transition on a peaceful and a smooth way. But otherwise, we have to wait for a World War III or a COVID-39 or another terrible thing like disasters the climate change are bringing us.
Our special guest is Fons Burger. We're talking about the only possible solution. His website is FonsBurger, fonsburger.com. As an ordinary human being, where do I start to initiate this change of thought process?
You just have to realize what is happening. I cannot tell my children, okay, don't fly anymore or don't eat meat. But if you realize what these two actually things are having an influence on the climate, you should start thinking and say, okay, maybe I eat less meat. Maybe I won't take every moment that it's impossible. I'll take a plane to come from A to B. And because we have to pay fair prices, it is much too cheap. And because it's so cheap, we are treating these animals on an inhuman way. And as soon as the politicians and the companies see that people are prepared to pay more or to change their methods and their way of living, then that transition is possible. I hope.
How has working on this book changed how you live your daily life?
I'm the son of a butcher. When sometimes I say, okay, now I stop eating meat totally. And then after 2 months, I'm at the doctor and I say, I don't feel very well. And then he says, what did you change in your life? And I said, I don't eat meat. Maybe you should now go to the store and buy yourself a steak. So change will start to come if people realize in what for situation we are. To see it happen in the politics and with the companies, then we have to, as soon as they feel there, a lot is happening. A lot of negative things are also happening, but it's going up and down, but it's going into the good direction, because even when people say, there is no climate problem, or there is no immigration problem, or we just have to shut the door, then everybody sees that it's not a real way of thinking. We have to realize that trains are even in Europe are even faster than, and if they are there. And so if many people take the train or drive an electric car, then it's not a solution, because we just should travel less. It's showing that you are on the good side. And that's what my website always say. You make the difference by standing on the good side of the line. And that's all we can do.
Fons Burger is my special guest. We're talking about his new book, The Only Possible Solution. FonsBurger.com is the website. It feels like there are influential things that make change happen, that begin as books or as films or as TV series. How do you think that the nonfiction versus fiction product can move this dream of yours forward?
Yeah, I think a lot of the change in the world is done because of great art. I don't dare to say that I make great art, but I think creativity is one of the main things that can lead us new ways and ways out. So you can be a scientist like everybody, but you also can be a creative scientist. And these bright minds, I'm not a creator of theory. I'm just a reporter. So I just search this unique people with their unique ideas, and I show them to my readers in the hope that it will bring the change that we need. But I think creativity is one of the main things. And of course, the book reading, especially with the Gen Z generation, the millennials, I have to kick my children to read my books. Once I wrote a book for young adults, and when they were 40, and they said, do I have to read this? And so I just raised a weekly pay to get them to read this book. And then they said, I just like it. But maybe the 2125, the Hibernator story will be a film or a TV series once, I hope. I'm working on that as well. But because I know the audiovisual way is a lot easier to reach a broad public. And we need to reach a broad public with this message that we can't go on like this. That's the basic message. So we have to come together and find this one possible solution.
What gives you hope right now?
This idea of more, maybe at the younger generation, they see, and also because there is a limit to the growth. And that gives me hope, because my generation, we ruined the planet for a big part. And we will, and we have the wealth that we worked for. And that's also where my book ends, with the purpose of life. That's the last chapter. And the last subchapter is love. Because I think, Terry, if you die, and we can take anything with us, and the only thing we wonder, did we love our family and our friends, did we love them enough? Because actually, that's the only thing that is important. I think that's the important thing. And that's basically where it's ends. If we all love each other, we are not going to throw bombs or shoot drones to each other. And if we love the planet where we live on, then we would take care of it and we wouldn't ruin it. We don't burn everything, because we're burning everything. Some things that don't come back. And so love is all you need.
How do we love people that are hard to like?
You don't have to love everybody, but once I was invited in a retreat to talk to a guy who had a totally different opinion about the climate, about everything. He was the contradiction, and we said to each other, let's have a Socratic discussion. And I only listened to him, and he only listened to me. And so we came very close. And so also people you don't like can learn you a lot. And at the end, you can like them anyway. We don't have to love everybody. That would be too big tasks for us.
What impact do you hope that the only possible solution will have on this world?
Of course, I dream of a big public, but a lot of projects I started ended up with nothing. I started a farm, and I had a new breed of Kashmir goats that can live on low level. And I worked there for 5-6 years. I worked on this project. And then we were able to get this new breed. And it cost me a lot of money. But nobody picked this up because they said, oh, well. And so eventually our beautiful breed was eaten by... But then I asked myself, did I spoil my money or did I spoil my energy on this? I don't think so, because we had 50 people working there, and they had employment for many years. But as soon as you make the difference, then you take care that things move into the right direction. So what happened with the book, I don't know. I dream of that these people will come together and that they will start discussing the way we can make this transition. But it's just a hope.
Is there a question that I have not asked you that you wish that I had?
Well, it's funny that you talked about Vietnam and the Watergate affair. And yeah, I was in Vietnam in 1975, just after the end of the war, with Tom Mangold, the BBC, Panorama. And I was also in the Watergate scandal. We were reporting that. And so the idea that we talked about was that 1 century is so short. We both live 3/4 of a century. But it's also that the last 10 years, the last 20 years, everything is moving so fast that we really have to realize that we must take action now.
The book is The Only Possible Solution. Another book I recommend for you to read is The Hibernator 2125, both written by our special guest, Fons Burger, Fonsburger. Fonsburger.com is his website. A fascinating conversation, my friend. I hope that your dreams come true. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Terry. Thank you.
In Conversation with Terry Shepard is a copyrighted presentation. All rights reserved. I'm Lisa Davis. Join Terry Shepard next time in Conversation.